This topic that I'm sure is actually very close to everyone's heart, which resonates with everyone, which is actually in respect to this very, very important value that we treasure, especially as Asians, and especially amongst the Chinese community. That is actually the practice and the cultivation of filial piety. So as we just celebrated Mother's Day, right, just last week, and we're going to be celebrating Father's Day again in June. So this seems like an opportune and very appropriate time, for us to actually delve, and actually go deep, deep dive, as it were, into this topic called filial piety, which is actually something that's actually very, very important to all of us. And this teaching of filial piety, it is a teaching that is actually very, very important. That it actually constitutes a very fundamental and important value, especially Asians, and of course it actually predicates on this value of reciprocity, and in terms of support and in terms of indebtedness that parents have actually done for us. And it is something that's so prevalent, that it is a common thread among all religions that we have currently. And it is something very important because it actually is something that's very integral, especially for Asians, as we reflect, upon the sacrifices, as well as the support, which are countless that our parents have actually given us. Just reflect upon, every single material need, that we actually have, since we were young until now, in terms of, the food, all the requisites that we need, as children, all the way up to now. Not to mention in terms of, the support for your education, whenever you were sick, your parents were over there, they were always there, to support you, So it is actually based on this very important value of support, and the sense of gratitude that we have for our parents. And of course, you also will find that in the other religions as well. This filial piety is something that's actually very common. So then the question then arises, as to actually how relevant is filial piety, in respect of the teaching of the Blessed One. Is it something that the Buddha actually emphasizes that this filial piety must be practiced in order for us to attain enlightenment? How relevant is filial piety in the practice of the Dhamma? Because as I mentioned to you, filial piety is something that is so common. It's like a common thread that runs through all the religions, even in all the teachings which are taught by the great philosophers, and the great scholars like Confucius, even in Taoism, filial piety actually seems to be running through every single fabric of these religions, and also in terms of this ancient civilizations and teachings like by Confucianism, and even in other religions as well, in Christianity, and in Islam as well, So it's something that's actually highly emphasized by all religions, because of this sense of gratitude, sense of indebtedness we have for our parents, who actually have provided, like so much for us, I mean, they actually, they're willing to suffer, go through all sufferings, and have to sometimes even eke out a living, just to actually have enough for children, So I'm sure many of you here are parents, and you can actually, empathize and appreciate what I say here, And so it's something that's so common, in all these religions. So the question now arises as to, what does the Buddha teach in terms of filial piety, or whether did the Buddha actually teach about filial piety at all? And is it really important? Do we really have to actually practice filial piety, as part of our spiritual practice in the Dhamma. Because a lot of times we mention, what do you understand by Dhamma? Oh, the Dhamma taught by the Buddha is actually what? Dana, Sila, Bhavana. It's it's something that's we practice every day. We bring food for the monks, and we practice. If we observe our 5 precepts, our Sila, and then we of course, practice Bhavana, by always cultivating the wholesome, and also eradicating, and also, putting in effort to make sure unwholesome states do not arise in us, through right effort, having the mental cultivation, to ensure what we do is wholesome, So we actually have this path always, Dana, Sila, Bhavana. So this filial piety is something that we always have it at the back of our mind, but it's more regarded as an ancient teaching, or more like an Asian cultural value, that we've been taught since young from a school. You must actually have filial piety for our parents. So the question now arises: how different, is filial piety, in the teaching of the Buddha as compared to other religions, and is it really important, as a fundamental teaching, of the Blessed One? Is it really something that you must practice in order for you to progress on the spiritual path? So that is the question that I'd like to analyze, and actually focus our discussion this morning. How different is it, the Dhamma teachings, that taught by the Blessed One, in terms of this filial piety, how different is it from other religions, That is something that I want to, really focus on and analyze, because we always regard filial piety as just an Asian cultural value, and in fact, many actually regard that as, it's something that we just practice because, we are Asians and we've been taught like that. It's actually taught by Confucian, Confucius, and we just do that because it's the right thing to do, So the question now is it really something that's so integral and so essential that you must have this, in order to practice the spiritual path taught by the Blessed One? Is it necessary for you to even attain stream entry? That is the question. In order for you to attain stream entry, that is actually all of us as lay Buddhists actually strive to do, right, in this very lifetime. All the things that we do, we are actually putting in the right causes and conditions, for us to attain, that breakthrough to the Dhamma, in order for us to see, the underlying inherent nature of all conditioned phenomena as taught by the Blessed One, which is what? Which is everything is actually, empty, it's actually non-self, devoid of a permanent self, Like what Buddha says, sabbe dhamma anatta, everything is actually non-self, including nibbana is also non-self. So everything, is, as long as, as a thing, it is actually unconditioned. So is it really important for us to practice filial piety in order for us to even attain stream entry? So that's the question we need to ask ourselves, right? Otherwise, a lot of Buddhists, and even, for example, Buddhists in the West, they don't really regard this filial piety as important because it doesn't quite, it's not really quite congruent with their Western cultures, of, when children grow up, they're supposed to be independent, they leave the families, and the parents actually can look after themselves because of the good social welfare system, So, it's like, they can take care of themselves. So, I don't really, I don't really have to practice this. So the question now is it really important, as not as a cultural value, but as an important component, in the teachings of the Buddha? Is that really something important and integral? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. And if you actually look at Confucius, the teaching of Confucius, right, in terms of filial piety, what it says is that filial piety means to be good to one's parents, to take care of one's parents, to engage in good conduct, not just towards parents, but also outside the home, so as to bring a good name to one's parents and ancestors, and to show love, respect, and support, to display courtesy, and to ensure male heirs, to uphold fraternity amongst brothers, to wisely advise one's parents, including, discouraging them from moral unrighteousness, and to display sorrow for their sickness and death, and to bury them, and to carry out sacrifices for them after death, So this is actually, the very essence of the teaching by Confucius in respect of filial piety. And if you actually look at other religions, for example, the Bible itself, I'm sure the Christians will also know that, in the Ten Commandments, there is a specific commandments for us to honor our father and mother, and even in the teaching of Islam as well, if you actually read the Qurans, there is actually this verse that actually says, taking care of parents and earning their pleasure is a direct path to paradise, So you see, even the Prophet Muhammad, also actually taught, that taking care of parents and earning their happiness, is actually the direct path to heavens, So you see, this filial piety is something that is actually it runs through, across all religions and every single fabric, of our society, and all teachings, all the way from ancient scholars and philosophers like Confucius, up to the current the religions of other religions. This looking after, and respecting our parents, it actually represents a very, very important value, that all of us as human beings, must actually support and must actually practice and cultivate. So, as I said, then the question here is, how different, is this filial piety as taught by the Buddha, the and Blessed One, from the other religions, right? And how and whether this filial piety is something that needs to be practiced. If we want to progress on the spiritual path to even attain stream entry, So that is the question that we need to ask ourselves. So for that, let me just refer you to this sutta, which is actually extracted from this Iti Vuttaka, 106. Iti Vuttaka is actually, a collection of suttas, which actually records, or the sayings of the Buddha, that was said by the Blessed One, so it records the sayings of the Buddha in this Iti Vuttaka. And if you go to this Sutta 106, there is actually this very, inspiring, teaching, by the Buddha in respect of, filial piety and also respect for our parents. So it says, this was said by the Blessed One, so I have heard. Living with Brahma are those families where in their home, mother and father are revered, by the children, And so the Buddha actually ascribed, parents as Brahma, the Brahma, the celestial beings Brahma, who are actually above, the devas, and living with the first devas, are those family, where mother and father, are actually revered by children, and the Buddha says the parents are also the first devas, and the Buddha says living with first teachers, are those family where the parents are revered by children. You see, because first teachers, because when we were born, parents, actually teach us, from what is wholesome, from what is unwholesome, what should be done, what should not be done, what are good values, what are good qualities, and what are qualities to be avoided, And the Buddha says, living with those worthy of gifts are those family where the parents, are revered by children. You see, so the Buddha here in the sutta has actually ascribed 4 very high, ranking. Designations, as you say, to parents, but the Buddha ascribed parents as what? As Brahma, you don't even need to see, don't need to hope, to actually see Brahma. Actually, in our very homes are actually our Brahmas, which are our parents. And the Buddha says your parents are actually your first devas, because when you were born, parents actually look after you with tender, loving care. They look after you. Whenever you even have the first cough or sneeze, they're so worried. They bring you, to see doctors. They are so compassionate towards you. Everything you need. They're the first ones. They can sacrifice whatever they have. They can even go hungry, provided you have sufficient to eat. So they are like devas. Your parents are like your first devas and your first teachers. Not just in terms of material needs, in terms of the parents also teach you in terms of your moral values, in terms of what should be done, how you should behave yourselves, how you should actually respect your elders, how you should study hard, and to be diligent in your work in order to, be useful people to the society. Whenever we're young, parents always tell us all this, right? Myself included, my parents have always been telling me since I was young, you should be, behave you should have good conduct, and even by way of body speech, speech and mind. You should actually not do this or do not do that. So and the Buddha says that because of this, parents actually are worthy of gifts. So in whatever situations, if you have the opportunity, it doesn't have to be Mother's Day or Father's Day, anytime, whenever your parents need anything, whether material or non-material in nature, whether they need your support in terms of, the daily requisites, the food, clothing, in terms of medical attention, or whether in terms of just support, whether be there to just listen to their problems, to help them, the Buddha says your parents are worthy of gifts, So before you even think about, doing dana, for other parties who need food, you have to bear in mind, the parents are, actually are worthy of gifts, And the Buddha says, the first, all these are the designations. And the Buddha says, why is that? Because mother and father do much for their children. They care for them, nourish them, and introduce them to the world. And the Buddha then gave this, this verse. It says, mother and father, compassionate to their family, are called Brahmas, first teachers. Those worthy of gifts. And so the wise should pay them homage, honor, with food, drinks, clothing, bedding, anointing, and bathing, and washing their feet. Especially in Thailand, children actually wash their feet, but not so here, But if you actually go to other countries, even in ancient time, even in India, parents, children actually wash their parents' feet, That's why I think in the Quran as well, if you read in terms of what they say, the heaven actually lies at the feet of the parents, So, all these are very spiritual teachings, and they run through across all religions, that teach the very wholesome values, of always respecting and supporting our parents, And so performing these services to the parents, the wise are praised right here. Of course, those who perform this are praised right here, and after death, they rejoice in heaven, for children who actually support their parents. That's what the Buddha says. And of course, you see, there's so many suttas that actually, highlight the importance of, supporting and respecting parents, even in, this. In terms of this Mahamangala Sutta, in terms of the blessings, the great blessings, Sutta on the great blessings, if you actually read this this verse, Mata Pitu Upatanam Puta Darasa Sangho Anakulacha Kamanta Eta Mangala Mutamam, So that clause itself, Buddha says that, the support for one's parents, Mata Pitu Upatanam, support for one's parents, assistance to one's wife and children, consistency in one's work, means in terms of your livelihood, you're consistent and you put in the effort, to support your family. This is the highest blessing, you can actually get, So you see, the Buddha already ascribes this support for one's parents as something that's very, very important, even in the, in this, sutta, on the great blessings, the great blessings that you can have, which is actually extracted from this Guddaka Nikaya. And this is actually from the Sutta Nipata 2.4, one of the books in Guddaka Nikaya. And if you look at Dhammapada, you see, it runs through across all the teachings. If you look at the suttas, and in Dhammapada 331 to 333, if you actually refer to this sutta, the Buddha says, a blessing in the world, reverence to your mother. A blessing, in the world, reverence to your father as well, And a blessing in the world, reverence to a contemplative, to an ascetic, to a monk, who is actually practicing, towards ending of samsara, And the blessing to the world is reference to a Brahman too, So you see, the Buddha, starts off, by saying, you should actually revere your mother, then followed by revering your father, then only contemplative and Brahman. You see the sequence of the in terms of, how you should support. So it starts, so charity begins at home. Everything begins, with your parents. So if you, do not support your parents, and you actually neglect them, but here you support, the contemplative and the monks, I think that is also not quite meaningful as well. So if you actually look at the suttas, and you see, even in in the book of, the numerical book, in Anguttara Nikaya, book of 3, is 3.37, you see. Again, the Buddha told the monks about what the devas actually do, high up in the heavens. You may think that they are enjoying their lives, right? But they are actually quite curious what the people on earth are actually doing. If you actually look at this Sutta 3.37, the devas, especially the devas of the 4 great kings who are closer to us, the Chatumarjika Deva, and also the Tavatimsa heaven devas, they are actually quite curious. I don't know, maybe a bit like curious, and they always want to find out, hey, what are those people on earth doing? Let me find out what. They always want to know, and so they always keep an eye on what we are doing. So if you read the suttas, the Buddha says on the 8th of the fortnight, means the lunar calendar, the 8th day of the lunar calendar, the ministers and assembly members of the 4 great kings will wander over this world. You see, on the 8th day, then they'll come out, and maybe have, go around, and check, and check it out, what other human beings are actually doing on earth. So they are thinking, then they actually think to themselves, we hope there are many people, many humans who behave properly towards their mother and father. You see, this is the first thought the devas actually have, are the human beings actually behaving properly towards their mother and father or not? That is the first thing that the devas think of, And secondly, they say, do they actually behave properly towards the ascetics and Brahmins, and honor the elders of the family, and and do they observe the 8 precepts, the uposatha, and keep the extra observance day and do meritorious deeds, you see. So on the 8th day, the devas from these 4 great heavenly kings, the Chatumarjika Deva, they will actually then hover around, over the earth, and then they'll start, they start thinking, are the people actually, behaving well, and supporting and respecting and supporting the parents or not? You see, so that is the first thing that the devas actually want to find out, And the same thing, on the 14th or the 4th night, the 8th day is actually the ministers and assembly members of the devas, These are like the ministers, and on the 14th of the fortnight, the sons of Chatumarjika Deva actually will come out, and they will actually fly over the earth, and they will actually say, let me just find out whether the people on earth right now, are actually behaving well towards their parents, and are they observing uposatha and do meritorious deeds, And on the 15th day, the full moon day, on the uposatha day, the 4 great kings themselves, the Chatumarjika Deva, they will actually then hover around the earth, and they will start thinking, are the people actually behaving well towards their parents or not, or are they actually keeping the 8 precepts, So, you see, the devas, from the 4 great heavenly kings, and also the Tavatimsa heaven, they are actually quite curious, and in a way also not so curious, but they're also very concerned, about what we do on earth, because you see, you can continue the sutta that says, if bhikkhus, there are few people who behave well towards their parents and and if they actually don't observe the 8 precepts and don't do meritorious deeds, the 4 great kings would then fly to the Tavatimsa heaven, and they report to the Tavatimsa devas, that and they will actually meet and sit together in this Uttama council hall. In this Tavatimsa heaven, there is this Uttama council hall where this Saka, king of Lord of the Devas, the Deva Raja, he gives Dhamma talks from time to time, or he may actually invite other Devas, to give Dhamma talks. So this Uttama hall is actually like a Dhamma hall, So they actually, these 4 great heavenly kings would then meet up with Tavatimsa heavens, and then they will congregate in this Uttama hall, and then they report to this Tavatimsa Devas to say, Reverend Sir, actually there are only few people who behave well towards their parents, and many of them don't observe the 8 precepts, and they don't care to do meritorious deeds, and because of this, the Tavatimsa Devas becomes rather displeased, they are not happy, say, oh no, the celestial company, in the Tavatimsa heaven will decline. Means the number of devas who were born in Tavatimsa will decline, and the company of asuras will flourish, because the people who actually don't respect their parents, don't do good deeds, in the end, they don't become devas in Tavatimsa, but instead, they actually become asuras, in the in the heavens, the Asuras, they actually live in the foothill, in Tavatimsa heaven, whereas, the Tavatimsa Devas actually, live at the peak, So, and these Asuras are not as handsome or not as pretty, as good looking, as the Tavatimsa Devas. The Asuras are not so, blessed because their cultivation of this, of good deeds, and also maybe their sila, is not as perfect, as well and as well safeguard, as well practiced, by the Tavatimsa Devas themselves, So, and of course the reverse happens, if they observe many human beings, on earth, on this human realm, who actually practice, respect their parents, and do good deeds, and observe the 8 precepts, then they become elated, they report to Tavatimsa Devas in this Sudama hall, that many of these actually practice well, and they respect their parents, and they practice the 8 precepts. So you see, the first thing that Devas actually look at is whether, we as human beings actually revere and respect and support our mother and father, That is the very, very first thing, that the Devas will actually consider, whether, the number of Tavatimsa Devas will increase or whether Asuras will increase. Because, the Devas and the Asuras are always in a constant war, they although they are Devas, they still wage wars against each other. If you read the suttas, it's very interesting, they wage wars against each other, and sometimes the Devas win, sometimes the Asuras win, So, and then when the Asuras win, then the Devas will then retreat into their palace, into their fortress, So it's like this constant war that goes on, in Tavatimsa heaven, So that's why the Tavatimsa Devas want the number of Devas to increase, They don't want the Asura number to increase, So they want to know, are the people practicing well or not? And the first thing they check is, are they actually respecting their parents? So if you can't even actually, have respect for your parents, then I think, you don't satisfy the criteria to be reborn, as a Tavatimsa Deva, So from this AN 3.37, it's very clear, that respecting for parents is very, very important, Not, okay, then we go to the next sutta, which is actually Anguttara Nikaya as well, which is the numerical book of the suttas, and this time is actually 3.36. Just now was 3.37 talking about Devas, right? Now we go down into the hell. In AN 3.36, it's the reverse, Instead of being reborn in the Devas, and this Chatu Marajiki Deva, the 4 great heavenly kings, looking at us, now it is actually the hell beings and the hell wardens, asking, in terms of how well behaved, that you have actually supported your parents. And the Buddha says here, this is actually the Deva on the sutta on the divine messengers, And the Buddha says, monks, there are these 3 divine messengers. What 3? Someone engages, in here, monks, someone engages in misconduct by body, speech, and mind. In consequence, with the breakup of the body after death, he's reborn in the plane of misery, the woeful plains, Apaya realms, in a bad destination, in the lower world, in hell, There, the wardens, hell, grab him by both arms. The moment you're born there, it's a spontaneous birth. There's no 9 months in the womb. The moment you are there in the hell, it's a spontaneous birth, and the wardens immediately grab you, by arms, and bring you to King Yama. This King Yama is the king that presides over the hell, and this wardens will actually tell King Yama, you see, this person, your Majesty means King Yama, You see, this person that just got reborn, spontaneously in the hell, right? Your Majesty, did not behave properly towards his mother and father. He did not behave properly towards the ascetics and Brahmins, and he did not honor the elders of the family. May your Majesty inflict due punishment on him. You see, and of course, then King Yama, went into a series of interrogation, with this hell being, didn't you receive the messages I sent you? I sent you a lot of messengers, in terms of seeing baby in filth, old people in their excrement and filth, and then getting sick, didn't you get those divine messengers I sent you? Of course, this sutta goes on, and after that, it describes on all the horrendous suffering that this hell being went through, being cut, being burned, being thrown into acid river, being devoured by the dogs in hell, and being hung up, like roasted pork, like sioba, being hung there, and then actually being roasted in a big pot, and then floating up and down, and also being dragged, on the razor blade floor, and then your bodies are all disintegrated because of all the razor blade, and after that, the wind blows over, and then your body becomes whole again, and then you go through the same, suffering, It's like your karma continues. As long as it's not exhausted, you must pay back your karma, The karmic strength is so strong that you must pay back. That's why it's important for us to make sure you guard yourselves, in terms of your sila, and also watch your mind carefully so that you don't commit any of this unwholesome action. Otherwise, the suffering is actually unimaginable, untold suffering, and unimaginable, and unthinkable, inconceivable suffering, So what I'm trying to tell what I'm trying to highlight here is the moment this person is reborn in the hell, through spontaneous birth, and he's being grabbed by the hell wardens immediately to see King Yama. The first thing that the hell wardens report to King Yama is Your Majesty, this person did not behave properly toward his mother and father. You see, the very first thing that the hell wardens reported to King Yama is that this person did not behave properly towards his mother and father. Compare that against what the devas in the Chatu Marachika Deva, the four great heavenly kings. The first thing they thought about is, do the human beings on this on earth are they actually supporting parents, properly? Are they respecting, parents properly? Are they supporting parents? The same consideration, that actually were thought of, by the devas and also by the hell wardens, The very, very first criterion that they actually think about is, are the human beings on this human realm, are they actually supporting and behaving well towards parents? And even if the person goes out to hell, the first thing that the hell wardens actually tell King Yama is, this person did not behave properly well towards the parents. You see how important this support towards your parents is, It's not just a cultural value that you practice at the back of your head. Yeah, it's something we need to do anyway, But please bear in mind, whether in heavens or whether in the hell, this is the first criterion that you'll be measured against, and there's no joke. This is actually what is reported by the Buddha, and it is something through what the Buddha has experienced himself, and of course, if you actually read the suttas, and we always think, this support of parents is nothing. It's just basically, some Asian cultural value, I mean, maybe some Westerners think, there's nothing much, Filial Piety is just something, the Asians do, it's nothing. It's just a value that Confucius taught, nothing. Is not really a religious importance, But if you look at, what the Buddha taught, this in terms of this importance of filial piety and support for parents. In addition to Anguttara Nikaya, Book of 3 that I mentioned to you, if you actually look at MN 117 in terms of this Saka Sutta, which is the Great 40 Sutta, if you actually look at this this paragraph here, the Buddha actually asked the monks. He said, what is wrong view? This Buddha actually asked, and he actually asked the monks, and he explained to the monks, what is wrong view? There's nothing given, nothing offered, nothing sacrificed, no fruit. There is no fruit or result of good and bad actions. Okay, this is the first first premise of this wrong view. And there's no this world, no next world. Means there's no rebirth. and there's no father and there's no mother, you know. So if the person has this wrong view, means, this person actually believes there's actually no significance, and there's actually no there's actually no wholesome result, arising, from supporting your mother and father, and it's something that that is not important, and you derive no spiritual values, from supporting your mother and father, and no spontaneously, reborn beings, you don't believe in, for example, beings being reborn in heavens or, in the woeful plains spontaneously, and no contemplative, and no Brahmans who actually fare, rightly and practicing rightly, and they have actually realized the truth, The Buddha says if you actually hold this is actually wrong view, and you see, and this wrong view is actually the opposite of right view, and right view itself is the very first pinnacle of the Noble Eightfold Path, if you actually want to practice, to even become a stream enterer, and the stream enterer, in the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha actually asked Venerable Sariputta, what exactly, is this, stream enterer, and this Venerable Sariputta says a stream enterer, is somebody who actually possesses the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. So if you actually want to even become a stream enterer, right? It's very important, that you actually start right, from the very top of the pinnacle of the Noble Eightfold Path. It starts from right view, right understanding, So, and this right view, the Buddha says, is actually the forerunner, in the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. And if you actually don't subscribe, and you actually don't, have faith, and you don't subscribe and to these values, then the Buddha says you actually possess wrong view. So if you actually start with wrong view, then the whole thing is actually wrong. Starting from wrong view, wrong thought, all the way to wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood. Everything actually becomes from micchaditthi, all the way it becomes wrong. So that's why the Buddha says the very first thing you must establish, to practice the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One is actually to establish right view, and to even establish right view, of course, you must actually then subscribe, and in a way have faith, in these aspects of right view, And of course, right view, there are 2 levels of right view. One is actually the mundane right view, and one is actually the super mundane right view. Of course, super mundane right view, where you actually are able to penetrate the 4 noble truths, able to see, the non-self nature, of all conditioned phenomena, the anicca, dukkha, anatta. That's where is actually the transcendental, super mundane, right view. But at the mundane level, you must actually be, have faith, in this right view, and it actually, the practice itself starts from right view. So you see, there's this right view itself. One of the components, is that, if you don't believe that there's actually any spiritual importance, or any spiritual benefit of supporting your mother and father, that itself is actually wrong view. If you don't believe in that, so to even start treading the Noble Eightfold Path, you must actually then, have faith that you must support your mother and father. That is the very first starting point in the Noble Eightfold Path. So if you actually do not believe that you need to support your parents, there's no spiritual value, and it's not a wholesome quality to have to support your parents, and the parents should just look after themselves, nothing to do with me, I am treading the Noble Eightfold Path all by myself, I just want to go and meditate, do my dana, observe my sila, I don't care about my parents, then I think you may actually start off on a wrong footnote, and you are starting with wrong view, and I don't think, then you are not actually fulfilling the Noble Eightfold Path properly, and you're treading the wrong path. It's not Noble Eightfold Path, it's the wrong Eightfold Path that you're treading. And I think then, the destination will also probably not in accordance with what the Buddha taught, perhaps some other destinations. Okay? So, as I mentioned to you, this Filial Piety is not just a cultural value, it's something that's very, very deep within the teachings of the Buddha. As what you can see, the devas, even the hell wardens, actually will will consider the very first important yardstick and criterion. Have you supported your parents? That's the first thing they'll ask you. Okay, and even in Noble Eightfold Path, right view itself, is actually where you need to actually have faith, that you must, support your parents. If you're able to, you must support your parents, material, non-materially, So that's very important. And of course, in this sutta, in this AN 2.312, if you go back to the numerical discourses, then the Buddha says, monks, I do not see a single thing that causes sensual beings to be reborn when their body breaks up after death, in a place of loss, in a bad place, in an underworld, hell, like wrong view. See, the Buddha says here, I do not see a single thing that causes sentient beings to be reborn when their body breaks up after death, in the place of loss, in a bad place, in a woeful plane, where suffering abounds, where everything is just suffering, there's hardly any occasion for happiness, At least as human beings, we still have happy occasions, we celebrate, we are with our loved ones, and we have all the things, that we feel happy about, but in these woeful planes, the moments of happiness are very, very limited, and suffering abounds. So the Buddha says, I do not see a single thing that is the cause and condition for sentient beings to reborn in this woeful plane, like wrong view. The Buddha says, I do not see a single thing. Buddha says it means that this wrong view is something that is so pivotal, so important, so essential, so integral in the spiritual practice. That the wrong view is the one thing that will actually cause beings to be reborn in the woeful planes. It's because they have wrong view, the sentient beings, when their bodies break up after death, are reborn in the place of loss, in the bad place, in the underworld, in hell. See, the Buddha, says about this wrong view. And if you believe and you have faith that supporting parents is not important, then you join the company of wrong views, and that's where your destination is very much likely to be, So supporting parents, is actually a very essential component of having a right view, right? You see, it actually flows down to the importance of observing your sila, So that's how important this supporting of parents is, It's not just something you do, Right from Noble Eightfold Path, now it flows to your observing of sila. Now let me explain to you. See this from MN 41. You may want to refer to this. This Majjhima Nikaya, which is the middle length discourses. 41 in the sutta is actually called the people of Sala. So at one time, the Buddha was actually wandering in the land of the Kosalans. The Buddha was actually in the Kosalan kingdom. This Kosala kingdom is actually very near Mount Himalaya. If you go back to the history, this Kosalan kingdom, is somewhere very near the this Himalayan mountain, very near Nepal, And at this time, the people of Sala actually asked the Buddha, why do some people, when some people they behave badly, they don't observe their moral well, they actually get reborn, in the woeful plains. And why do good people actually then reborn in the heavenly realm? What is the reason, for that? Then of course the Buddha explained this. The Buddha says, if any beings actually commit any of these 10 unwholesome actions, the 10 ducharita, the Buddha says, then you are actually creating the potential energy, for you to be reborn in the woeful plains, And the Buddha has actually explained these 10 unwholesome actions, time and time again, so many times in all the suttas that they ask they actually the Buddha actually reminds us all this time to ensure we actually avoid, and do not commit these 10 unwholesome actions, And like I mentioned to you before, I'm sure many of you are familiar, 3 actions by body, 4 actions by speech, and 3 actions by mind, right? In terms of, by body is in terms of, killing, stealing, sensual misconduct, and then by speech, when you actually tell lies, falsehood, and we actually have slanderous speech, you actually backbite, and then you actually, create, divisive speech, by creating dissension and disharmony between people, and you enjoy doing that, because to create people and, dissension, and you are involved in harsh speech, and then also frivolous speech, like to gossip around, if it's about good things, probably not so bad, but usually the gossips is about bad things, all the juicy gossips, that we have over lunchtime, do you know, the boss did, do you know this person, is did this, that's so ridiculous, all these things, that you're actually creating, the 4 unwholesome actions by speech, and then also the Buddha says 3 actions by mind. 3 actions by mind is actually when you have this malicious intention that someone will be killed, let this person be destroyed, I hope he actually dies, and I hope this person is killed, I hope he's slaughtered, let him, just disappear from the face of the earth, So this malicious intention for you to actually hope for this person to be killed, to be slaughtered, is very potent, it will bring you to this woeful plains, And the next one, of course, is actually when you have this greed for other people's belongings, it's not just normal greed, but you actually, this covetousness, you actually hope for the properties of others, you want to get control of other people's belonging, that is a kind of unrighteous greed, the Buddha says, and the last one, of course, the Buddha says is wrong view. Again, you see, this wrong view is part of the 10 unwholesome actions, and like I said, part of the components of wrong view, is that you do not believe, that there is actually spiritual values, in supporting your mother and father. Like I mentioned, like I highlighted here, there is no such thing, as mother or father. Of course, this does not mean that you're denying the biological fact that, we are born out of mother and father, but what it means here is that there is no value in supporting mother and father. There's no spiritual importance of supporting parents. Why should I support them? They can look after themselves. I mean, I just walk my path. I just cultivate my path, and I go into nibbana myself. Don't care about parents. But the Buddha says, if you have this view, then it's actually a wrong view, and it is potent enough to bring you to the woeful plains. You see? So this supporting of mother and father flows and trickles down to the very importance of what? Observing or sila, It's not just Noble Eightfold Path alone in wrong views. Even in sila itself, that if you actually have these views, then you need to be, careful, about, whether you're actually, practicing well, practicing rightly or not. You see, that's why the Buddha actually ascribes filial piety as a very, very critical and very, pivotal and, essential component, in the teaching of the Dhamma. His Dhamma Vinaya, this filial piety is something that's very, very important. And in this AN 3.45, you see, the Buddha says, monks, there are these 3 things which are prescribed by the wise, and praised by good people and prescribed by good people. What are these 3? Giving is prescribed by the wise, prescribed by good people. Chaga, dana, open-handedness, always willing to help, always willing to, lend a helping hand, and the second one is going forth is prescribed, by the wise, prescribed by good people, pabaja, going forth, become a samanera, and the upasampada, become a monk, a full-fledged monk, Going forth, is actually praised by good people, And the third one, Buddha says, attending upon one's mother and father is prescribed by the wise, you see. Anguttara Nikaya 3.45, again, this actually flows down, to the very teaching that the Buddha teaches about what the wise, will actually expect us to do, the wise will actually praise you, if you are generous, if you go forth, and practice the Dhamma, and then, to search, and to practice towards the ending of samsara, then the Buddha says, these are practiced by the wise, and praised by the wise. And the third thing is attending upon one's mother and father, and so it's actually prescribed, and highly praised, by the wise. Again, you see AN 3.45. And just to show you also a few other suttas, in SN 11.12 Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha actually talks about this Saka, Saka Dewa Raja, our Tingkong, that we pray, right, on the 9th day of the Chinese New Year, we always pray to this Saka Dewa Raja, and he resides on the Tavatimsa heaven, and there was one occasion, the Buddha was staying in Vesali, in a great wood, in a hall with a pig roof. And then this Mahali, he's actually one of the Lichavis. Lichavi is actually a race, a group of people, during the Buddha's time, the Lichavis. And this person called Mahali, he actually went up to the Buddha, he bowed to one side, and then he actually sat down, and then he actually asked the Buddha, he said, Bhante, have you seen Saka, a lot of the gods before? Then the Buddha says, yes, I have, Mahali. I've seen, Saka Dewa Raja before. Then this Mahali said, and he was a bit skeptical. I say, but surely, Bhante, you must have seen someone who looked like Saka Dewa, But because Saka Dewa Raja is so hard to see, are you sure you have seen him before? Then the Buddha says, Mahali, I understand Saka, and I understand the things that he undertook and committed to, which actually, enabled him to achieve the status of Saka today. So the Buddha says, Mahali, the Buddha told Mahali, Mahali, I know Saka very well, I understand Saka. I even know why he became Saka, in this very lifetime. You see, and of course, if you actually go towards this sutta, right? Let me just go back to this. Okay, this is the same sutta here, and the Buddha says, Buddha gave quite an extensive description about Saka. He said, actually, in a former life, Saka was actually a human being. He was actually a Brahmanical student. He was his name was called Magga. That's why he's called Magava. And in the former life, Saka was a human being. He gave a lot of gifts. That's why he's called Purindada, the first giver, and a few things. And Saka actually thinks of 1,000 things in a moment. That's why he's called, Saha Saka, the 1,000-eyed, the 1,000-eyed Dewa means, he's called, a Dewa with 1,000 eyes because he can think of 1,000 things at the moment, And Saka's wife is actually an asura, called Suja. That's why he's called Sujampati, Suja's husband. And this Suja, he's actually Saka Dewa Raja's wife. And of course, Saka has many all these, these Dewas and Devis who actually support him, and he has this wife called Sujampati, And the Buddha says, in a former life, when Saka was a human being, he undertook 7 vows, and it was because of these 7 vows that he became Saka, Then what are these 7 vows? This Saka says, this was when he was still a human being. He says, as long as I live, you see, the first thing is, may I support my parents. You see, that is the first thing that Saka actually vowed. The very first thing, whatever good things you do, it starts from your parents. Not anything else. Anything wholesome you want to do, you start with your parents. As long as I live, may I support my parents. As long as I live, may I honor the elders in my family. Whoever is elder than you, your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents, whoever is elder than you, I will honor them. As long as I live, may I speak gently. This is actually your 10 unwholesome actions, right? In terms of harsh speech, you must avoid harsh speech and you speak gently. As long as I live, may I not speak divisively, slanderous speech, right? Pisu navacha, So it's also very important. As long as I live, may I live at home, rid of stain of stinginess, freely generous, open-handed, loving to let go. Committed to charity and committed and loving to give and share. Means this Saka Dewa Raja was very generous, and as a human being in his past lives. And as long as I live, may I speak the truth, no falsehood, So if you're able to observe the 4 right speech under the 10 Ducharita, you support your parents, you honor your grandparents and whoever is elder than you, last one, this is the sixth one. The last one, as long as I live, may I be free of anger, or should anger arise, may I quickly get rid of it. This one is a bit more difficult. The six ones are very easy, relatively easy. Means the four do charita, you don't do, and I support my parents and I support the elders. But the seventh is something that's more challenging for most people. May I be free of anger, and should anger arise, may I quickly get rid of it. So this is what? Cultivation of wisdom, it's not just about dana and sila anymore, it's actually able to cultivate what? Kaya gata sati, right? What I've always also, explain in my talks, in terms of watching your mind, in terms of reading your mind. The Buddha says, if you don't have the psychic power to actually read your mind, or read others' mind, the Buddha says, if you don't have the psychic power to read other people's minds, it does not matter. That is not important. That psychic power is not important. But what is important is you must read your own mind, the Buddha says. You must actually be aware if any lobha, dosa, moha, actually surfaces in your mind due to the impingement of the sense objects onto your six sense doors. You must be aware of it. You must have sati. You must have awareness. That it has arisen in your mind, and this is actually a practice under Citta Nupassana. In terms of the foundations of mindfulness, right? The four foundations of mindfulness. This Citta Nupassana is very, very important. You must watch your mind, and always guard and read your mind and guard over your mind in terms of how it reacts. So if any lobha, dosa, moha, arises in you, then first of all you must have sati. You must be aware. But as I always say, sati alone is not enough. You must have sati sampajanya. Sampajanya is actually where you actually apply wisdom. In terms of yoniso manasikara. Wise attention to why these defilements have arisen in your mind, and that's where you actually contemplate. How this arise through causes and conditions. Where you analyze through the use of vipassana. That actually intrinsically there's actually no permanent self, in whatever defilements that arise in you, and also in terms of the external object, everything is actually, non-self, is empty, this sunyata, this empty. Then, by using this samatha and vipassana, in tandem, that means, first of all, you actually, quieten your mind. You become aware there's anger. You move your focus to something else. Maybe your anapanasati, or maybe in terms of rising, falling, and maybe you actually do something else to defocus your mind on this anger. Then you come back again and you analyze. How does this thing arise? Why does it arise? Does it arise independently, or is it dependent on causes and conditions? Then you are able to actually get rid of this anger fairly quickly. And you're able. If you read the suttas, if you practice this well enough, then getting rid of it is just like the speed of actually battering your eyelids. How fast it takes to actually blink is how fast you can actually, get rid of anger. So Saka is actually quite spiritually developed, so he's able to get rid of anger very fast. So he doesn't become angry very fast. In fact, there are many suttas that show a lot of incidents, where, for example, the demons, sat on his throne and all this. He was not angry at all. He actually had patience. He used the teachings that the Buddha taught him. In terms of this kaya gata sati. In terms of this, this yoniso manasikara. And using this sati sampajanya. To actually see through the intrinsic nature, of the non-self nature, the empty nature of all this, and then he's able to let go. So if you have these seven qualities, then then you're able to become the next Saka. But you must start with support your parents. That is how important it is. Okay, and of course. The importance of parents, is also highlighted, in this, MN 82. I'm sure you heard about Ratapala. In terms of, before any person actually goes forth and become a samanera or a monk, whether through pabaja or upasampada, then you need to have your parents' permission. So that is a must. And in the case of Ratapala, he couldn't get the the permission, so he actually went on a hunger strike, and he didn't want to eat, and just sat on the floor for many days. So in the end, the parents, had to actually relent, and let go and allow him to be a monk. So that's why you see the Buddha actually ascribed high importance on parents. The enlightened beings in the Buddha's time, they all look after their parents, and even in the suttas, and this is actually on SN 1.50, where there was actually this Dewa by the name of Ghatikara, and this Dewa, actually in a former life, he actually lived in the city of this Vebalinga, and at that time he was actually a porter, this Ghatikara, right? He was actually a porter, but he was really an anagami, He was really an anagami, means the third stage of fruition already, He really reached a stage of anagami, but he couldn't, become a monk, because he had actually, he had blind parents, His mother and father were blind, and he was a great supporter of Buddha Kassapa at the time, and this was before our Gautama Buddha. It was Buddha Kassapa, and during the Buddha Kassapa's time, right, this Ghatikara, a porter, right, was actually a good friend of Jyotipala, and Jyotipala was actually the Buddha, our Gautama Buddha was actually Jyotipala. So this Ghatikara and Jyotipala were actually very good friends, in the time of Kassapa Buddha, and this Ghatikara actually, encouraged Jyotipala, to actually, see, Kassapa Buddha. In fact, Jyotipala was actually Buddha, in the previous life, during in Buddha Kassapa time. And this Jyotipala actually told Ghatikara and said, "Why should I go and see that bald-headed monk?" So at the time, then Ghatikara encouraged him that he went to see the, Buddha Kassapa, So both of them were actually good friends, But what I'm trying to, and of course, this Ghatikara, he passed away, and then, in the pure abode, then he became a Brahma in a pure abode. Then he flew back. And at that time, this Buddha, has become, the Bodhisattva had become a Buddha, and this Ghatikara Brahma then, flew down and then, went to see, our Buddha, Gautama Buddha. And this is where he actually recounted their past lives, in Vebalinga, And this Ghatikara then says, I took care of my parents, as a lay follower of Buddha Kassapa. Because of what? Because he had blind parents. So you see, that this... even though Ghatikara was actually an anagami, he did not just abandon the parents and say, I want to become a monk, and I want to just practice, I will become an arahant. No, but he continued to be a lay person, even though he was an anagami, and he actually took care of his parents because his parents were blind. You see how touching it is, and of course, in AN 4.4, the Buddha again, warned us. There are 4 persons. If you actually behave wrongly towards them, then you yourself are as if you are actually maimed and injured. You are hurting yourself, and you are actually injuring and maiming yourself. You are actually like causing yourself a lot of injury, if you actually behave, foolishly, and in bad ways, towards 4 persons. What are these 4 persons? Behaving wrongly towards your mother, secondly, your father, behaving wrongly towards the Tathagata, and behaving wrongly towards the disciple, of the Tathagata. So if you behave badly against these 4 persons, then the Buddha says you are as good as injuring yourself. And of course, there are many other suttas, like in 4.61 and 6.1, the Buddha talks about how you should actually use the wealth that you've actually made for yourself. And of course, the Buddha starts off actually by saying you should actually, support your mother and father first, and then only then, the monks, and also other ascetics, So you see, the Buddha starts off by actually looking at parents first, So, and of course, the Buddha in 5.129 says, there are these 5 weighty karmas that you must not do, And the Buddha says, if if you actually commit these 5 weighty karma, then for sure you actually end up in the woeful plains and in hell. That's where you kill your mother, you kill your father, you kill an arahant, and then with a corrupted mind, you cause the blood of a Buddha to flow, and you actually cause a schism, in sangha, So the Buddha actually then highlights, that this weighty karma that you must actually be very, very careful, So, okay, so actually, as we can see here, the Buddha has emphasized a lot in terms of, Filial Piety, that, is actually very important, as even as, in our practice of the Dhamma, as we walk the spiritual path, this Filial Piety is very important because it's part of the Noble Eightfold Path, it actually trickles all the way down, to the practice of Sila, and more than just supporting parents, our parents. The Buddha actually in this AN 2.31 actually says, he says, I tell you monks, there are these 2 people who are not easy to repay. Which 2? Your mother and father. And the Buddha says, even if you were to carry your mother on one shoulder and your father on the other shoulder for 100 years and were to look after them, by anointing, massaging, or bathing them, even if you were to actually establish your parents' sovereignty over the great earth, then you will not actually in that way repay your parents. Why is that? Because your parents do much for the children. They care for them, they nourish them, and of course, they nourish them, they introduce them to the world. So the Buddha says, how do you actually repay your parents? It's not just in terms of supporting your parents, in terms of the material, and all your material needs, that you were to carry your parents, on your shoulders for 100 years, and to bathe them. The Buddha says you will not have repaid, the gratitude, that you owe, to your parents. But the Buddha says, but anyone who rouses his unbelieving father and mother, settles and establishes them in conviction. Means if you establish your parents in terms of a sada, and rouses, your unvirtuous, your parents who do not observe sila, in sila, and you actually establish, your stingy, parents, and encourage them to be generous, and establish them in generosity, and and rouses your parents who do not have wisdom, in discern and wisdom, then to this extent you would have actually repaid your father and mother. So the Buddha says, supporting your parents in terms of material needs is actually not good enough. But more importantly, you must actually establish them, in 4 very important things. In terms of sada, sila, chaga, and panya. Okay, and if you actually look at these 4 spiritual qualities, in terms of sada, sila, chaga, panya. Why did the Buddha actually establish these 4 qualities? Because if you establish your parents in terms of these 4 qualities, you are actually paving the way for them to actually attain stream entry, right? For example, if you actually establish them in terms of practicing the sila well, observe the 5 precepts, as well as, do not actually commit any of the 10 unwholesome actions. And if they practice, the 8 precepts and uposatha day, then of course, then they are creating the potential to be reborn in the heavenly realms, But at the same time, you also encourage them to actually practice wisdom, by what I just mentioned to you in terms of, watching the mind, guarding the mind, in whatever that we do, right? You must actually watch your mind constantly, and to do that, you must actually then, focus yourself on a 6th sense basis, by being aware, in terms of the 6th sense objects that actually come into contact with your 6th sense basis, and how your mind reacts to it, whether in terms of whether there's any defilements that arise in you, or otherwise. And this is what the Buddha actually teaches, in this teaching called the Kayagata Sati, right? And from there, you then contemplate, in terms of the 5 aggregates through the 6th sense basis, and that's where you actually then apply Yoniso Manasikara, through in the practice of Sampajanya, then through this Sati Sampajanya, then you're able to practice to develop this wisdom in terms of the intrinsic non-self nature of all conditioned phenomena. And once you're able to break through to the Dhamma, then you would actually, your parents, if you're able to break through to that intrinsic, that nature, that Dhamma eye arise in them. They're able to see, how things are dependently arisen, that they're actually inherently empty. And then it's your parents would have actually been able to eradicate the very first factor, which is the Sakaya Ditti, which is the identity view, and from there, the conviction in terms of the experiential confirmed faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha arise, and lo and behold, your parents are actually become, Sotapannas, So if your parents are able to become Sotapannas through your encouragement, then you would have actually fully repaid all the debts that you have, because from there they only have up to 7 lifetimes in the samsara, and not only that, they are only reborn either in the Deva realm, or as human beings, high-ranking human beings, up to 7 lifetimes. So they can actually take a slow boat out of samsara. So if you are able to rouse, and encourage, your parents on these 4 qualities, Sada, Sila, Jaga, Panya, and most importantly, Panya, through this practice of this Kayagata Sati, to see the intrinsically empty nature of all phenomena, then your parents would have achieved Sotapatti, they become stream enterers, then you would have actually fulfilled your duties, as towards our parents, and in gratitude for whatever your parents have actually sacrificed and supported us.